Hi everyone, can you guys hear us? Okay, welcome everyone to our product stability track. So today we'll be having Debbie. She's going to talk about how integrating UX improves engineering efficiency and the sanity. And she'll be introducing herself. She can give more information about herself. Over to you, Debbie. You can take the stage.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, everybody, and thanks to the conference for including me. Hi, everybody. I'm Debbie Levitt. I'm an American living in Italy, and I'm a few time zones behind you. And I've been working in CX and UX for about 25 years, so I do a lot of things in the area of research, information architecture, interaction design, prototyping, and testing. And clients like to call me Mary Poppins because I fly in, fix everything I can, sing a few songs, and then stick around or fly away to where I'm needed next. I probably have enough information to go right through to the end of the session. So if I don't get to your question, please write down your question and make sure you email me or find me on LinkedIn. I do want to answer everybody's questions, but it's so hard for me to talk for less than about 40 minutes. So I'll do my best to get through this as fast as I can and take questions, but please contact me outside of the conference. My email's on the bottom of the slides. You can tweet at me. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I stream on YouTube 3 or 4 times a week. So join the Delta CX channel there. You'll also see these little cameras coming up on the bottom of my slides, and that's for people who like to screenshot slides. And that just means that there's no more animations coming. That slide is finished. So it's a good time to take a picture. Now I've got 400 slides, so I'm going to narrow this down today to about 35, and we'll get through them as fast as we can because there's a lot to tell you about how UX can work better in Agile and engineering. But you know, I need a day. So thank you for the smiley faces. I do see them. So, but I'm not going to look at questions. I'm going to get through my stuff first. So too many companies are excluding or circumventing UX because they see it excluded from their Agile maps, books, infographics, training, and how-tos. Or they just assume UX workers waste time and budget. Or UX is just wireframes and anybody can sketch a screen. Wrong. Expert UX architects research, design, test, and iterate on everything between someone saying, I have an idea, and let's get it to programmers to be built. Developers and engineering architects want to be involved when product and creative teams are designing the software or system. Product, UX, and creative teams want to stay involved during the engineering processes, but so many methodologies are siloing us, and we need to break that down. All your customer knows is your user experience. That's it. They don't see 1,000 developers or whether you were agile or lean. You're a user too, and the software and systems you use have competitors. What makes you select the tools, software, apps, or systems that you've chosen? When you use a system that you don't like, are you thinking, man, how many sprints did they spend on that? Probably not. You're probably thinking, when something doesn't work the way you expect, who built this junk? And that's a great question. Who designed this product? Who researched it with customers like you to learn your habits, motivations, needs, tasks, and then deliberately architect and design for those? Was this tested on people like you before it went out to the public? I promise this is my only slide in Italian, and it says, what is UX? So just in case you're not totally sure, and the duck says, I am UX duck, I make the magic. UX is the more scientific, psychological, problem-finding and problem-solving side of product experience and service design. We've got lots of goals, but some of them are happier, more loyal customers, ease of learning and use, shorter, more intuitive processes, and accessibility for people with mobility, vision, hearing, cognitive, emotional, and other issues. Now, we've got a huge set of phases and tasks. It's like saying agile. Well, agile's not just one thing done once by one person. UX is a whole set of different things. Now, these aren't tasks, these are phases, and within each one there are tasks. Now, we don't have the time to go through this, so I'm going to give you the small, short version and mostly focus on research. Research is an important piece of what we do. It's not user-centered without real users. Statistics and quantitative data are great, but there's no substitute for interviewing users, deeply understanding them, and getting qualitative data. And in our world, that doesn't mean asking them, what do you want? We have to be better scientists than that. We want to know the why and not just how many. Every step of research is important. Planning, recruiting participants, executing the research, interpreting it, evaluating what you found, and arriving on actionable insights and knowledge. Some people think just skip UX research. It takes time and money. But remember when we invested in research and development? R&D, and then we read a book about startups releasing flawed things quickly, and we thought that sounds cool. We need to return to doing proper scientific research, and UX research can be done in less time than you think, so please give it a chance. It can be make or break for your product. And also I want to mention another area that's often skipped or skimped on in UX is our testing. We need to make sure that the idea and the execution of that idea are going to be fantastic for our target customers. We don't want engineering to build it until we're sure this is what we should build. Testing will bring to light any flaws, which gives us the chance to iterate on it and will send us back to interaction design work. So it's kind of cyclical. Testing is the QA of UX. We don't skimp on or exclude QA for our code. We don't say, oh, they take time, they take money, just put the code out. There's no good reason to rush out untested concepts because bad product can be worse than buggy product. So here's a little bit of an example. If you are on a team or at a company that really doesn't have UX people or maybe didn't hire the right ones, here's what things might look like. The client, the product manager, the CEO, someone with the vision or the idea tells engineering what they want. Engineering builds it, engineering tests it, it goes on staging or production. Now that client or product manager sees it, and what do they always say? Yeah, now that I see it, I think I want something different. Now you have to start over again. Okay, now what do you want? Okay, we'll build it, we'll test it. And it's a cycle of these stabbing and guessing until you release something live and you cross your fingers and you hope that the customers will like it, especially if they are paying. If you had UX in your world, and again, this is very high level, that client or product manager or CEO would talk to UX about what's the vision? What are we thinking of building and why? What are the problems we're trying to solve? And maybe we aren't even sure. UX can cycle through all of those phases and tasks in user-centered design, which I know I didn't have the time to explain, but these are Googleable. You can always look up user-centered design and human-centered design. Of course, we want to iterate on our ideas, and then we test it to make sure it's a good solution. Clients and internal stakeholders and now users like it. Now we can deliver it to engineering, ready to build once. Hopefully once, without cycles of change requests. And if the client does want to change their mind or someone has to change their mind, you come back to UX, not to engineering. We run interference in all of this. Plus, the UX process is the best time to brainstorm, experiment, and change your mind. We don't want to burn engineering's time on that. Let's talk a little bit about lean. Again, this presentation is my minimum viable presentation because I have a short amount of time here. So remember that you never get a second chance to make a first impression. This is especially true for that first time a customer installs your app or visits your website or tries your SaaS system. Will this be too lean for them to really use, enjoy, get fish hooked on? Remember that you're running the risk that customers think you're bad at this or you build broken things. And if people were turned off by that MVP or that beta, will they reinstall and give you another chance when you put out a new release? How often do you give companies second or third chances? Not often. That's why for UX, the V in MVP stands for valuable. Even if we want to be lean, we should still be creating a quality product that helps customers with their tasks. You'll also hear about minimum marketable feature. And that's where we make sure that everything we build and release has real customer value because it's something that's marketable. This approach would help us keep ourselves from stripping things down too far or from doing stakeholder ego projects. And there's an increasing movement in UX to get away from the MVP model. People who read the Lean Startup book jumped on MVPs thinking we should do what startups do, but have you ever noticed that startups fail like 90% of the time? Why are we copying them? Why aren't we copying Disney Imagineering, people who get it right almost always? Don't copy startups, everybody. The MVP approach imagines that you don't really know what customers think of your product until you burn the time and money of having engineering build it, test it, merge it, release it, then you can gather feedback. But all that time and money spent on engineering could be wasted if people don't like what you built or now it has to be fixed. And that sounds like lean waste we could cut. Why would we burn time and money on something that could be defective when we could know earlier through the UX process, UX testing and iteration? We don't want to turn our trial or real customers into laboratory rats. So again, you don't have to go through the whole engineering process to get feedback on the product concept. Reframe the MVP approach to be more about what can be done during UX phases rather than what happens only during engineering. Also, please note that the Lean UX book was widely disliked, if not hated, in the UX industry. I know you're thinking, well, it's called Lean UX. This must be what all those UX people do. Nearly zero people do it. The book was actually pretty hated. We didn't adopt that model. It's not how we work. I don't use Lean UX. I've never used Lean UX. And the only people I know using Lean UX are people very, very new to UX who would rather make a team do the work than do their work themselves. Not good. I also have a whole podcast on this on my Delta CX YouTube channel. It's called Lean UX is neither lean nor UX. And I'm only bringing this up because some flavors of Agile and Scrum are using Lean UX as their model. But can you imagine if your workplace forced you to use a model that was from the most hated book about Agile? That's the position we're in. So that's why I come out and I do these talks, because we really need to improve the way that most Agile and Scrum approaches deal with UX and not just follow what some of these books say blindly. And we also have to remember that if we think about the original definition of lean, it's not about doing the least you can and skipping things and skimping on things and reducing things. It is about making your process more efficient so you can reduce defects and improve quality to the customer. Let's talk about Agile. The main problems between UX and Agile can be summed up with this slide. First, we have UX being a square peg. Someone is either trying to hammer into a round hole or it's being taken off the board and thrown away for not fitting in. Siloed, excluded. We work differently than engineering. We have a different process, different goals and tasks. And I hear things like, why can't UX people design as engineers are sitting next to them and coding what they're designing? The answer is the same reason why QA doesn't test code as a developer writes each line, but more on that later. So the first problem is that engineering often wants to ignore how UX work is done and hammer it into how engineering work is done. This makes as much sense as demanding that your heart doctor and your lung doctor work the exact same way as each other. They should do the same things, their tests and processes should take the same amount of time, and they should replace each other if one of them goes on vacation. Doesn't work for specialized doctors, doesn't work on our teams. Second, have you ever heard of the no true Scotsman fallacy? It's when you dismiss criticisms by appealing to the purity of something. That's what happens every time I say, well, here's how UX can fit into Agile really well. And someone says, that's not Agile. Or I say UX should be weeks ahead of coders since we're researching, designing, and testing what you'll build. And someone says, that's not lean. We have to stop acting like Agile or Scrum or Lean have this flawless purity that will be ruined if a different role with a different process joins the team. Part of Agile seems to be to figure out what Agile is for your company and teams, to keep fine-tuning it for what works for your teams and products. So let's talk more about it. I'm going to use Safe Agile in some of my examples because it's easy to pick on them. But please know that everything I tell you can be adapted to really any form of software development, with a few things that are more specific to Safe Agile. Once upon a time, I went for 4 days of Safe Agile training. Yes, I have since recovered. Thank you for asking. And when I asked them, where does UX fit into your model? And this was like 2014. They said, we have no idea where UX belongs. And if you figure it out, please tell me. Please tell them. Okay, I tried to tell them, but they didn't want to listen to me because they had discovered the extremely terrible Lean UX book. So UX now gets a little, too early for that. Thank you for the smiley faces there. There's more jokes coming. UX now gets a little recycle your garbage icon in the bottom left with milestones and system team, but that doesn't tell me or anybody how UX works in. Are we in sprints? Are we on the team? Are we outside of the team? And just to drive this mess home, let's go back to what SAFe declared before they discovered the Lean UX book. They said, and I think this is maybe their 2016 version. It's before 4.5. They said, quote, the basic structure of UX within the SAFe framework includes a UX architect on the portfolio team, information architects on the program team, and one UX designer on each feature team. End quote. We were included at every level, and now they seem to have no idea where we fit in. It's so hard to find any Agile info or training going deeply into how you work with UX, the people designing what engineering will build. That's why I'm giving this talk everywhere I can and doing it as private training. So, using an old version of Safe Agile as a little visual for those looking at the screen, where does UX fit into Agile? Well, first of all, nobody puts UX in a corner. Here's where UX really lives. We're here in portfolio land, involved in what we're building, why we're building it, and prioritizing what we're building. Not taking that away from any product owners or product managers, but to collaborate with them. Sometimes they're listening too much to the business and not listening to the information our research tells us about what customers really need. We're all over the program level, like in continuous exploration, the process of continually exploring the market and the user needs and defining that vision, roadmap, and set of features that will address those needs. Again, we're not taking over portfolio and program, but we should be collaborators. I don't know what this guy's doing here, but we're all about customer solutions completely. It's what I live for. I'd love to help out in the DevOps world. I'd love to improve and enhance the culture. I'd love to decrease failure rates, though I'm usually thinking more on the human experience level than the technical bug level. We want shorter time between fixes, but we also want there to be fewer fixes. Better UX design earlier, fewer fixes later. And one UX designer should be on the Agile team. This UX architect or designer can represent the creative team and can circle back with visual designers, copywriters, researchers, and others involved in the process. Remember that huge circle of tasks and processes? Well, that's often done by multiple people with individual specialties. UX is like saying engineering. That could be anything. UX is a lot of specialized jobs rolled into one. So UX is really all over this Agile map. We should be. And if you're not sure where UX fits into Agile, I find that it's because people just don't understand what UX does or why we do it. But hopefully through this presentation, you'll start to get that a little bit more, and you can be the genius hero at your company. Many more slides coming. So if you're not putting UX on a completely separate track and you are making it part of sprints and sprint planning, then we must always start ahead of engineers because we're populating the backlog. So we need time to do that. Whether your sprints are 1 week, 2 weeks, or some other cycled block of time, my research confirms this is the best way to go, even if it's not what your book on Agile says. And we've got to be 2 or more sprints ahead. This graphic on the screen imagines we are 4 sprints ahead. Yes, that can be lean and agile. Don't claim it's not pure enough. If QA is going to be testing what dev is building 1 or 2 sprints from now, you wouldn't complain that that's not lean or agile. So let's just make the best of our assembly line and stop telling each other you're not agile enough. Planning has to be in place so UX can start ahead of engineering. If you wait until sprint 0 or 1 or kickoff, engineers will expect to have a prioritized backlog full of work. That's not going to come until UX has something tested, approved, and ready for engineers to build, plus prioritized possibly by the product owner or in collaboration with us. When we get our head start, engineering can be working on the previous project, previous story, a spike, setting up their environment. You can work on whatever you want while we get our head start. I'm staying out of it. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And also note that this particular graphic kind of combines both UX tasks and UI tasks. And UI is typically the visual design, the colors, the look, the spacing, the branding. It's very separate from all of the science of UX. So if these are kind of together, then this graphic works. In some companies, there's a separate assembly line process where the UX is done, but it doesn't have, sometimes people say, the final polish or the look or the branding. Then there's a separate step where someone does that, and then it goes to front-end devs and engineering. So just know that I'm showing these combined here because that's happening more and more at companies, especially where you're using designed systems and predefined components. This is normally where somebody puts on their kilt and says, that's not agile or lean. Hey, that's probably waterfall if UX wants to do some of their work before engineering. Well, I'm not saying we have to do all of it. We just have to start some of it. The core of Agile is to get our teams to be a well-oiled machine where velocity is predictable because we can be efficient on a recurring cadence. Agile is not about pushing your people to go faster, go faster, go faster, go faster until they want to quit. It's about finding a cadence that you can reliably repeat. And let's also remember that there are aspects of our Agile, Lean, and Six Sigma worlds that came from manufacturing and factories. We were inspired by assembly lines that were predictable, efficient, and could produce the fewest defects. People get nervous when I say Agile is just a really great assembly line, but I think it is. QA can't check developers' code as developers write it. Developers have to finish some sort of block of code and decide it works before passing it to QA. Same for UX. We've got to finish some sort of block of work before it can be coded. We don't have to finish the whole epic ahead of time, but we are one of the first stops on your assembly line. All right, let's talk a little bit more about that. Did anybody see this viral video about 2 years ago? Someone installed a power outlet under an automatic soap dispenser. Now you have a crappy workflow and the experience of having your hand and possibly your power plug covered in nice wet soap just as you're connecting to electricity. The caption I saw on this was, "This is the reason we do integration testing as well as unit testing." Ah ha ha ha, good engineering joke. But then it hit me. This is why UX designs and tests complete workflows rather than separate pieces in isolation. Imagine if someone had prototyped these first. We had built some sort of prototype. Wow, we would have noticed that this is not the right place for this outlet. Run the wires this way and move it over here. We would have saved a lot of work and a lot of human pain. That's why for a larger feature, the smallest possible piece that UX can prepare for engineering is the customer's workflow, the customer's task, the process the customer has. We don't just work on a password field and give it to you, because the customer doesn't just see an isolated password field. They see a process of creating an account or logging in. So we don't just design tiny pieces and never test them together. If we have a small fix, okay. If the project is something smaller than a full customer process, sure, we can be nimble and we'd need less time. Not everything UX does requires a giant runway, but product, project, portfolio, program, and engineering must be prepared and must be planning for when our features call for this. Remember, your Agile Manifesto principles can support UX. Principle 1, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer. Imagine if we acted like that's our highest priority. Hands up, whose company does not act like satisfying the customer is our top priority? Yes, I'm getting hearts. Thank you. Principle 5, give motivated individuals the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. Hire great, qualified UX workers and let us do what we do. Principle 9, continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. Design matters. Make it great. And my favorite, Principle 10, give me a thumbs up if Principle 10 is on your top list. Simplicity. Thank you, thumbs up, people. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. They're really talking here about being lean and cutting waste. And when I show up to a meeting and I go, why are we building that? I don't think that has customer value, or let's do a little research to make sure that's the right thing to build. Sometimes I'm overruled. Sometimes I'm never invited to that meeting again. But what happened to simplicity and being lean and agile, welcoming change even late in the game? We have to live up to all of these sayings we put on our walls. Again, we've got to make Agile better because it really misses things when it comes to UX. More slides, people. I may be going straight to the end, so if we don't have time for questions, please do find me after or email me there. So one of the biggest problems I see between UX and Agile is time estimation. I'm awesome at time estimation, but nobody ever lets me estimate my own time. Many of you are going to be Agile coaches or working on Agile teams, or maybe some of you are portfolio product owners. When's the last time somebody went to UX and said, here's something we're thinking of doing. Can you make sure that's a good idea? And how much time will you need? Has not happened, right? Thumbs up, has not happened. Sad, sad. Where's thumbs down? So no matter what flavor of Agile you're using or any software development methodology, UX has to estimate their own time. Product, project, portfolio, bring us into your earliest discussions so projects can have the right budgets and timelines from the beginning. And at the team level, we're on the team. We shouldn't have to ask to be included in something the team is doing. Include us in your meetings. Include us in your planning and estimations. I absolutely can estimate my time, though I do think of time in terms of hours and not in terms of Fibonacci sequences, broccoli, or shirt sizes. I'm going to talk to you in terms of hours because that's a unit of time. Also remember that People I work with who are not UX experts, and that's most of you, are often incorrect in estimating what tasks I'm going to do and how much time I need to do them. As you saw before, you saw that big user-centered design phases and tasks. You can't even begin to guess which ones I'm going to strategically pick and choose for the project and how long it takes. So you've got to include me. Otherwise, these incorrect assumptions lead to interpersonal conflicts, culture problems, projects appearing to be derailed by UX, or we just rush to push out a design that might still be quite flawed because it didn't get enough iterations, testing, and improvement. This is from Safe Agile's page about continuous delivery. They say this shows the flow of value through an enterprise's pipeline as they focus on new feature development. The point of this page is to show you how you can reduce the delay between some of engineering's steps. That's engineering's business. I'm staying out of it. But according to this page, feature definition takes 4 hours and design takes 4 hours. Here's part of the problem with SAFe, but other flavors of Agile as well. We have to continue to battle these false ideas that UX just needs a few hours to sketch some screens, and that's product design. But more importantly, look at how they break down the engineering tasks and steps while summarizing what UX is going to do into a day or less. So I don't really have time today to go into detail again on all of those steps, but take a look at this. On this screen, there's one box that says design. And before you saw I had 9, and they have subtasks that I didn't show you. Can you imagine if SAFe had one box on this screen that said engineering to represent all the things engineering does? And can you imagine if this were reversed and UX got dozens or hundreds of hours to do their work and engineering was just thrown a day or two? Our work is very complex and we need time to do it. So I see Agile and Scrum coaches saying work just needs to be done. And since something getting done is better than not getting it done, it doesn't matter who does it as long as it's done. That sounds inspirational, but let's think about the possible outcomes of that. Is it appropriate to assume that everybody has the talent, skill, and personality to do every job? If the customer's experience is bad or the product is bad, can we still congratulate ourselves for getting work done? And if anybody can do anybody's job, how much coding would you like me to do? I learned BASIC in 1979, and I have a degree in music. I'll just read an O'Reilly book, and then you'll let me code to production, right? We have to shift away from thinking faster, faster, faster is the way to go. We have to get back to quality. We have to be leaner by recognizing defects earlier and improving them before engineers burn time on code. When you are considering the concept and design for a feature, would customers leave this 5 stars? If we can tell right now that they wouldn't leave it 5 stars, how do we improve it now? Person who keeps popping up, I have about 10 more slides. They started me late. I want to talk quickly about my phases of proficiency model, just to remind you of why you can't give UX work to just anybody, or you can't just read a UX book and then do the UX. You would be doing UX at my building blocks phase, which is the what? I'm going to sketch screens. I think I'll ask customers what they want. But that would be like me saying, look, I'm putting things into GitHub and Jira, so I must be doing engineering work. Ooh, no, please no. Science and technique are the how or how well of what you're doing. It moves past the mechanical act of performing tasks and looks at the quality, depth, style, and approach to the work you're doing. Science and critical thinking. If you ever watch my YouTube videos, this is my critical thinking hat. Put on your critical thinking hat, and now you're doing techniques with science. Okay, we got that person smiling because I can see you there, person. So talking to customers is a building block, but asking the right questions, finding the right customers, interpreting what they say correctly. Now we're living in the science and technique world, and too many people who think they do UX, including visual designers, unfortunately, too much of the time, are not really doing this right with science and technique. And strategy is why or when you would do a particular task, as well as being able to estimate the time well. So let me move on. Okay. So I'm for the concept of the T-shape, which you hear a lot in Agile and Scrum, that we should all just be T-shaped. We should have strong expertise and knowledge in one area and have subspecialties in other areas. But would you want someone without DevOps expertise deciding who's good enough at picking up DevOps work if we have a bottleneck? You would want your expert developer to decide who else on the team is good enough at coding to pick up some tasks. Excuse me. You would not want me and my lack of coding skills deciding who's good enough at coding, right? I'm a classically trained opera singer. Do not let me decide who's best at coding. So therefore, the only person who should determine if someone on the team is good enough at UX is a UX expert. If a non-expert is guessing at who's good enough to do something, that's a double disaster. If it's people over process, we need to care about which people are doing which elements of the process. And you shouldn't have to learn someone else's job to do yours. So again, a handful more of slides because we started a little late. In 2008, a famous tech company announced it was going to have to do a redesign of its redesign. When the product was released, they found customers hated it. Cluttered, obstacles, drawbacks, things they didn't want, things they didn't like. The backlash was serious, and the company had to then go out on their blog and apologize and say, okay, we're going to fix everything. But how much did this company spend on all of those concepts, layouts, and engineers building and testing this for multiple platforms? Because if you recognize what this is, you know it works on multiple platforms. What was the cost now to undo it and redo it? $1 million? Millions of dollars? How about all that wasted time and money plus bad press? We can know upfront. There's no longer a good reason or excuse to just build it, just ship it, and find out later it's a disaster. Companies can save heaps of time, money, staff resources, and customer pain by integrating the full UX process. Oops, sorry, my thing just fell. So remember, we've got to work with all of our teams early and to collaborate with UX on where we're going with this product, because I'm sure, give me a thumbs up if you have ever worked on a project and while you were building it, you knew it was going to be crap for the customer. Okay, here come all the thumbs up. Why didn't we fit? And person I can see is laughing. Someone is laughing. Your video's on and you're laughing. So why do we build these things? Why do we deliver these things to customers when we know it's bad? We've got to work harder earlier in the process to do something better for our customers. And again, that's where UX research is going to come in so handy. Quick note, if you're a fan of Six Sigma, you already know about cost of poor quality. If not, it's worth Googling. And it reminds our companies that we can estimate or precisely calculate what it costs us internally and externally when we deliver garbage to our customers. Things like the cost of delays, analyzing failures, redesigning, reworking, retesting, downtime, and I would even say morale. I mean, how much do you hate your job when you go, oh my God, we shipped another terrible thing again? Who am I? Why are we doing this? And then, of course, externally, complaints. Customers' bad will, losses of sales and customers. And I would also say bad word of mouth. People love to tweet angry things and leave bad reviews. Now your people at your company have to spend time and money trying to handle that or fix that. Oh, and these other ones too. So we want to measure customer satisfaction. And of course, Agile's very quick about it. Gather feedback, measure customer satisfaction. This leads people to do all the wrong things. Your UX person is the perfect person to do this. Engineering, you're busy enough. So remember, without customer satisfaction, you might not have customers. So we can look at things like customer service, call centers, social media. We're looking for fewer complaints, better app ratings, higher app ratings, fewer support tickets, fewer call center calls, more positive social posts, and reducing all of the cost of poor quality we saw on the last slide, which you do by having better planning, strategy, and aiming for quality and customer value. And of course, also we're hoping for more app installs, fewer uninstalls. Maybe if you're in e-commerce or you're selling something, you want to see people buying more or more often. And many people are also counting conversion rates. All of these things can be measured before and after your UX revolution. And I love to look at some of the things that DevOps shoots for because it reminds us of what we should be shooting for. I think about how if we could get UX correctly worked into a process and UX being done by proper qualified people, I bet developers would start estimating their time more accurately. Maybe they wouldn't measure their time in broccoli or fractals, right? You guys measure time in fractals. So I don't know why. Heart, yes. Please give me smiley face if you measure your time in fractals. So we want to make sure we get things out to the public more quickly, but we want to get the right product out there. Nobody wants to continuously deploy junk. I know I'm a few minutes late, but I started late. So I want to encourage everybody to look beyond. How efficient were we? How many story points did we get to? We should be looking at building great products for customers, not just, we cut lean waste. Are you sure that was lean waste or was that my job? My job's not lean waste. Also, remember, we're supposed to be building things that are accessible for people. Remember, motion, hearing, cognitive, visual, I'm losing my own list now. It's not in my notes. All of those things that are needed for accessibility have to be built into your products. In some countries, you get sued if you don't do that. So you have to do it. And remember, some of us really hate our jobs because of reasons like all of these. Metrics will be a very hollow celebration if your company has a revolving door because culture and collaboration are awful. So think about new ways to measure things. And my last couple of slides. Okay, so there are non-UX people out there announcing methodologies and approaches that somehow exclude, minimize, or dilute UX, or they try to make it into a group workshop where everybody's going to do crafts and glue macaroni to a plate. Well, I understand that people are trying to do these things, but when the UX is bad and the customers are reacting, it's not UX's fault if you're not following those Agile Manifesto principles, working closely with us, hiring the right people, and giving us that time and budget to do what we need. Hey, whatever you were doing probably isn't UX. I might look at that and go, that's not UX. That means it's time to try again, but you've got to do it properly and thoroughly by integrating UX specialists and our user-centered design process. And again, it doesn't have to be everything every time. A senior level or higher UX practitioner with 5 or more solid years of UX, not visual design, will be strategic and will know what to do. And remember that we are here to mitigate risks for the business, not just for the customer. We want to make sure we're not wasting time, money, budget, competition, whatever, on building the wrong product, burning engineering's time, budget, and resources, causing customers to meet who I call the 4 horsemen of bad UX, my registered trademark: frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. We don't want to burn money on customer support, social media managers, and people who have to calm people down. We don't want to burn money on marketing being wasted and sales not able to sell this. And we don't want to be reactive instead of proactive and predictive. Agile is not supposed to be react. And I didn't have my US government slide in here. Darn. And I'm out of time anyway. So thank you. This is my last slide. If you'd like to catch up with me, you can find me all over the place in the world of deltacx.com. You can learn about my book, my training. And again, we're a full service CX and UX agency. So we do projects and consulting for companies. We come into companies and help them hire and build teams and fix their broken processes. And I like to say we do business transformation towards product quality and customer value. I'm not going to claim to do your agile transformation, but holy cats, I can hopefully get people caring about humans again. So if you have any questions, and I don't have time for them here because I know we ran over because we started late, please email me. Please get in touch on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'd love to connect with everybody. So Rohini, hi. You've been very patient. I don't hear you though. Is it my system? Microphone?
Yes, thanks,
there you
Debbie.
go.
Yep, thanks, Debbie.
Ethan, hi.
Yeah. Thank you. It was really a wonderful session, and
Thank
I
you.
think covered a lot of aspects about the CX and UX part. I think it was really a wonderful session. And as she mentioned, I think we don't have much time, and so I think the participants can connect with Debbie on her the
Yeah, what I'll do is I'm copying and pasting all the questions in the questions, and what I'll do is I will go record a video on my YouTube channel with all of the answers. So if you guys want to hear the answers to this after this conference is over, drop by the Delta CX YouTube channel and look for a video that says Technical Agility Presentation Answers, and I will record it right now.
Yeah, thank you. That will be really good. So
thanks everybody. Thanks for all the hearts and love.
Yep, thank you.